Hey guys, it's Doug. So a year ago I sneakily dropped into a video the fact that I'm gay. I didn't make a huge deal out of it. I didn't sing and shout and send it to the newspapers because I don't think it is something to make a big deal out of anymore. It's quite a normal, acceptable thing to be gay. Lots of people are gay. And well, if you missed it, then where have you been? But welcome back. But now I've got a lot more comfortable sharing that part of my life on YouTube. I kind of wanted to talk through my coming out process and how that spanned over many, many years. Now, the main reason I didn't come out on YouTube before that was because I hadn't actually told my parents until literally like a week before. So obviously I needed to tell them before I put out a video. I didn't want them to find out about it online because that would be not very fair on them. So I guess it all sort of led up to me telling my parents. That was the biggest coming out for me, is coming out to them. So I'll talk more about that later, but for now, let's go back, rewind, and start right at the back at the beginning, when I was a teenager and I started to figure out that I was gay and started the whole coming out process. Because believe me, it's been a long process. So I went to the same school for a lot of my childhood for 9 years. So I think my struggles with being gay and coming out all sort of stem from that, to be honest, because I was in this bubble, this school that wasn't huge. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was never that popular. And I didn't have really any friends outside of that school. So that was kind of my whole world. And it was a lovely school. I've got great memories there, but there weren't really many gays at school. I think there was like one person who came out and then went back in and then was bisexual. So I didn't really have a lot of role models, I guess, to be inspired by or learn from or even realize that it's an okay thing to be gay. So even though throughout my teen years I probably had attraction to guys, I guess I would misconstrue those feelings and not really understand them completely. And if I did fancy a guy, I would probably explain it to myself as being curious or intrigued, or I don't know, but as far as I knew, I fancied girls, as that was the only thing that I'd ever really been taught. So that bubble kind of burst a little bit when I went to high school when I was 17. This high school was a lot bigger and more diverse, and I was introduced to a lot more people. Probably what was most pivotal was the fact that I made friends in the musical theatre area, because I was in some musicals there. And obviously in musical theatre, there's often a lot more gay people, it's more accepting. That was probably where it all started to change and where my mind started to be opened to the fact. However, I was certainly not labeling myself as gay by this point. And I actually remember my parents asking me when I was 17 whether I was gay, and I told them no because I did genuinely believe that I wasn't. So it's funny that they probably knew it before I had any clue myself. This also led to the time where I started making YouTube videos, where I was introduced to a whole new community of more people. Again, on YouTube, tends to be a lot of gay guys for some reason, I don't know why. So suddenly I had a lot more gay friends and I was surrounded by the fact that it's okay to be gay. And so my first gay experience happened. I remember almost being freaked out by it, but this guy wanted to kiss me and I let him. I was still trying to explain it to myself that I was just curious, but I kind of started to realize that maybe I could have feelings towards guys. Gradually, my brain was starting to rewire itself and realize that, you know, this is a normal thing and that it could be me. And it probably wasn't until I was 18 that I actually decided I was gay. So really that whole process took a couple of years until I could actually be comfortable with calling myself gay. And so now that I knew it for myself, I kind of started to having to tell other people the whole coming out thing. And boy, was I not good at that. Oh no. So first up was my group of musical theatre friends. And now these were probably the easiest to crack because basically I just got with one of them and then he ended up telling the others. So that was easy. I didn't really have to come out. They all just found out. And then next there was my YouTube friends. And again, I got with someone at a party and people saw. I actually remember one of my YouTube friends, Tom Burns, saying to me the next day, "Oh, so I saw you getting with a guy last night." And I remember the relief that I didn't have to tell him because he had seen it and he'd found out for himself. So I got this far and I hadn't actually even had to tell anyone. And it's not that I didn't want people to know, I did, but I just really struggled with actually telling people and I found it really hard. This was around the time that I then went to university. Once again, a whole new group of friends to tell, and I couldn't, and I chickened out, and weeks passed and months passed and I just didn't know how to tell people. I finally managed to pin down one guy, not literally. I finally realized that I had to tell this one person who was probably like my closest friend at the time. And so we were hanging out in between classes one day and I really wanted to tell him, but I didn't know how. So I told him, "I've got a secret. Can you guess what it is?" And I basically just made him guess and guess until he finally said, "Is it that you're gay?" So I said yes, and it was cool. It was fine, obviously. So to be honest, after that, I kind of just hoped that he would tell other people. Again, to save me the trouble of having these conversations, which I really didn't like having. And thankfully, to my relief, he did. The secret had been revealed and I'd gotten away with only having to ever tell one person. But now my friends back home from my original school still didn't know. So they were the next target, and then a year passed. And finally, I was going on my first date with a boy. So I knew there was one of my best friends from back home that I really wanted to tell, but I hadn't plucked up the courage yet and I didn't know how to formulate the words. So I was texting him that I was going on this first date. But so far in the conversation, I'd kept things very gender neutral. And finally in the conversation, I was able to slip in a masculine pronoun like him or he, And that was my way of telling him that I was going on a date. And he was like, oh my God, you're going on a date with a guy, you're gay, that's awesome. Awesome, very, very supportive, of course. But again, I still feel that I kind of just slipped through and cheated it and didn't really do it properly. But at least they knew. I've always been very comfortable with the fact that I'm gay, but the actual saying the words and wanting to like avoid any potential awkwardness from a conversation is something that I just, I dread it and I'm not good at it. So all my friends now knew, my family didn't, and I would basically justify that to myself by saying that they didn't need to know, which is a bit sad really, because it's a huge part of my life and I just didn't feel comfortable enough sharing it with them. So in my third year of university, I went to California to study abroad at UCSB. Now once again, there was a whole new group of friends to tell. I'd gotten a bit better at it, like a little bit better at it, but still was not fluent in saying that I'm gay. So I met some other British people on a Facebook group before we moved out there, including Jamie, who I ended up moving in with, and so we were sharing an apartment with. So he was like the next person that I needed to tell. I'd already got there and then a few days had passed and I still hadn't mentioned it. And suddenly I got to that moment again where it's like, crap, I haven't told him yet. And now the longer I leave it, the harder it is. I ended up speaking to some of the girls in the group who I found it a little bit easier to tell, and I got them to tell him for me. So I still hadn't nailed saying that I'm gay thing, but at least I told them a little bit quicker this time. It can feel like a bit of a hard thing to bring up sometimes, even today. Like, I know I'm not the most camp person, and if your gaydar isn't on point, on fleek, then you might not know that I'm gay straight away. And so if people carry on going assuming that I'm straight and I don't say something straight away, then it can start to feel a bit strange to have to bring up like later down the line. Fortunately, once I got a boyfriend, that was a lot easier because I could just drop in my boyfriend into the conversation, which would usually be the way I would tell people, and it felt a far lot easier. So speaking of the boyfriend, Elliot and I were moving in together. We'd been in a relationship for a year and I still had not told my parents. I would tell myself that it didn't matter that they didn't know, that it didn't really affect anything, and that because it was such a really hard thing to have to tell them that I could just put it off. But obviously moving in with a guy, I realized that there was no way that I could live with my boyfriend and not tell my parents. That was like a step too far. So almost thankfully, this was the pivotal moment where I knew that I had to tell them. It was make or break, had to be done. And of course I knew that once I told my parents, then I could share it with you guys on YouTube, which was something that I'd always kind of wanted to do as well. But I just, the parents thing had been the barrier. So a million different ways went through my head of how I could deal with this, how to tell my parents. I could write them a letter, I could sit down, gather the whole family and do a PowerPoint presentation. No, probably not. I thought about making a video to my parents and putting it on YouTube for them to see and sending it to them, but I was getting carried away, time was ticking away until I was moving in, and I think I'd left it too long, so one day I just decided, right, I'm gonna do it. I think I didn't think about it too much because I was just like, I need to just pick up the phone, start dialing. So I called my mum and I started speaking to her. I still couldn't quite bring the words "I'm gay" to my mouth. So I'd already told them that I was moving in with Elliot, but I'd always sort of introduced him as a friend, and so it was like I was moving in with a friend. I remember saying on the phone, so mum, I'm moving in with Elliot. Well, he is my friend, but he's also my boyfriend. I remember being so nervous and like my voice was all croaky and shaking. But of course she was more than happy. I'm sure she said like, yeah, we had an inkling ourselves. It certainly wasn't much of a surprise to them, I don't think. So that was it. I kind of wimped out again by doing it on the phone rather than in person or anything. And I didn't really want to have to do the same thing again with my dad. So I asked my mum to tell my dad and kind of went from there. So the coming out thing never really stops, to be honest. I wish I was better at it. I wish I was more confident with it and was just like, hey, I'm Doug, I'm gay. It's never been that I'm not comfortable with it. I really am. I love the fact that I'm gay. I love guys. Guys are the best. Sorry, girls. It's just that sometimes it can be hard to come out. You should just be more comfortable with it because at the end of the day, the people you tell are probably going to be very supportive and they probably already even knew. I think almost everyone that I struggled to tell and ended up telling in whatever way that I did probably already knew. So I guess the moral of this story is just do it. Just come out. If you haven't already, don't prolong it. Don't do what I did. Just do it. I certainly wish that I had told my parents a lot sooner. I can't believe it took me that long. So don't make the same mistake that I did because everything got a lot better once I told them. Trust me, life is so much better once you have come out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to chat to you, so go follow me on social media. My Snapchat is Doug_A, and go follow my Twitter at Doug Armstrong. I'll be talking to some of you on there and we can chat and you can ask me questions. If you're new around here, then go and hit the red subscribe button down below as I make videos every week and I wouldn't want you to miss out on the next one. And if you have enjoyed this video, share it with your friends as hopefully it might inspire other people to come out or at least help them learn from my mistakes maybe. But otherwise, that's all from me. Give this video a thumbs up and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye.